Hey there, 5-6. We're going to start off with a little activity. I want you to take your hand and I want you to press it down really hard on the table. If you need to stand up, that's totally fine. So what I want you to do is I want you to try and individually lift every finger. Go ahead and try that now. Did you realize that you can't lift your ring finger? I want you to go and ask your parents or your siblings to see if you can figure out how you can lift your ring finger while pressing down really, really hard. So pause the video and go get some advice. Did you try it? Did it work? I want you to try something else. I want you to take your hand again and place it down, but gently rest it on the table. Now, try and individually lift each finger. Were you able to lift your ring finger? How frustrated were you when you couldn't lift your ring finger in the beginning? What advice did your family members give you or your siblings? Did they have an idea of what would work? Did you think anything would change with the instructions to just rest your hand on the table? Now, I know this is an odd activity, though I doubt many of you are often asked to lift your fingers out off a table. This leads right into our discussion about advice. Where do we get advice that works? You see, Jesus gave his disciples some pretty odd advice, and we don't know if they questioned it, but we do know they tried, and it worked. We'll look at how Jesus wants to give us advice for what we do each day, the big stuff and the small stuff. And we'll also learn how we can always trust him. So our scripture for today comes from the book of John, chapter 21. So big number 21, verses 1 through 14. Later, Jesus appeared again to the disciples beside the Sea of Galilee. This is how it happened. Several of the disciples were there: Simon, Peter, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples. Simon Peter said, "I'm going fishing." "We'll come too," they all said. So they went out in the boat, but they caught nothing all night. At dawn, Jesus was standing on the beach, but the disciples couldn't see who he was. He called out, "Fellows, have you caught any fish?" "No," they replied. Then he said, "Throw out your net on the right side of the boat, and you'll get some." So they did, and they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. Then the disciple Jesus loved said to Peter, "It's the Lord." When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic, for he had stripped for work, jumped into the water and headed to shore. The others stayed with the boat and pulled the loaded net to the shore, for they were only about 100 yards from shore. When they got there, they found breakfast waiting for them, fish cooking over a charcoal fire and some bread. "Bring some of the fish you've just caught," Jesus said. So Simon Peter went aboard and dragged the net to the shore. There were 153 large fish, and yet the net hadn't torn. "Now come and have some breakfast," Jesus said. None of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Then Jesus served them the bread and the fish. This was the third time Jesus had appeared to his disciples since he had been raised from the dead. Every one of us has received advice, some good and some bad. But let's explore this passage and discover what it says about Jesus' advice. That brings me to my first point. Jesus meets us where we are. I'm going to post some questions on the screen, and I want you to pause the video and take time to answer them on your own. Jesus meets us where we are with his advice for what to do each day. He is so creative. He uses the Bible and different people like our parents, teachers, and sometimes friends to help us find out what to do and what will work. That brings me to my next point. Jesus says to do things differently. I'm going to post some questions on the screen, and I want you to pause the video and take time to answer them on your own. Jesus wants what's best for us, and sometimes trying to do things differently is hard, or we can even be scared to try something new. But Jesus is with us each step of the way, and even when Jesus' advice doesn't line up with what our culture says to do, we can trust Jesus and know that it'll work out when we try it his way. That brings me to my next point. Jesus' way is always right. I'm going to post some questions on the screen, and I want you to pause the video and take time to answer them on your own. Jesus knows what we're going through in life, the good stuff and the bad stuff, and he wants to help us. We don't have to go looking for Jesus when things get bad and we're discouraged. He meets us where we are, and he asks us to do things differently. And he's always right. I'm going to post some additional questions on the screen, and I want you to pause the video and take time to answer them on your own. That's all I got for today, 5-6. See you again soon.